Have you ever wanted to learn English without even feeling like you're studying? Just sitting back, listening to a story, and suddenly realizing you understand more than you thought you did? That's what our stories are for. To teach you naturally, without stress, through moments that stay in your memory. If you like learning this way, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell. We upload a new English story every single day. Let's begin. It was a gray morning in Lyon, France. The kind of morning when the sky looks like an unfinished painting, heavy with quiet thoughts. Outside, the streets were wet, and the sound of passing cars was soft, like waves sliding against a stone shore. Inside the small café on the corner of Rue de Maragnes, everything was still. Hannah sat at a table near the window. She was alone, but it didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like pause. Like life had pressed a gentle hand on her shoulder and said, "Wait here for a while." The window in front of her was fogged up. Steam from the warmth inside met the cold glass and turned it into a canvas. Drops of water slowly formed and slid down, leaving trails behind them, like tiny rivers moving across a cloudy sky. She didn't wipe the glass. She didn't draw on it with her finger like a child might. She just looked. Her hands were wrapped around a warm cup, but she wasn't drinking. Her coat was still on, half open, and her scarf sat loose around her neck. Her bag rested on the floor beside her chair, forgotten. There were a few other people in the cafe, an old man reading a newspaper, a woman typing on a laptop, a waiter leaning against the counter, wiping a glass slowly, lost in his own thoughts. But Hannah didn't look at them. She looked only at the window. Outside, the outlines of the buildings across the street were soft and strange behind the mist. The trees along the sidewalk had bare branches that reached toward the sky like delicate fingers. A cyclist passed by slowly, his shape nothing more than a gray shadow moving behind the blur. She could hear the gentle hum of music playing from a speaker above her, something slow, maybe jazz, but it barely touched her ears. Because all she really saw was the fog. There was something comforting in it. Something quiet. Something honest. The world outside was still there, but not in sharp detail. It was gentle. It had edges, but they were soft. Nothing demanded her attention. Nothing asked for her to respond. She could just be. Sometimes, in busy cities, in fast trains, in noisy cafes, everything feels loud, even when it's not. People talk. Phones ring. Music plays. Plates clatter. Time pushes forward without waiting. But not today. Not here. Here, in this little cafe in Lyon, time had sat down beside her and said, "Take your moment. Watch. Breathe." She had no plans for the day. No places she needed to be. She had arrived in Lyon only yesterday, her suitcase still half full, her shoes still carrying dust from the last town. She didn't know why she chose this cafe. She had turned a corner, then another, then seen the small green sign above the door and walked in. That was all. And now, here she was. Staring at a foggy window. watching life move like shadows behind glass. She thought about how much of life we miss while moving too fast. How we forget to look. Forget to sit still. Forget to notice. She thought about mornings from her childhood when the kitchen windows in her grandmother's house would fog up while tea boiled on the stove. She used to sit on a stool and draw hearts and stars in the mist. She would watch the outside world through the shapes her fingers left behind. She didn't draw today. But she remembered. A man passed by outside, holding a bright red umbrella. His reflection showed only in parts, first the umbrella, then his coat, then the soft movement of his legs. A piece of a story she would never hear. That was okay. She didn't need to know everything. Sometimes, beauty comes from not knowing. From watching without asking. From listening without needing answers. The cafe smelled of fresh bread and strong coffee. The kind of smells that remind you you're safe. That you're not in a hurry. That this moment is enough. A drop of water on the glass in front of her grew heavy and ran down quickly, joining others below it. Hannah followed its path with her eyes, then returned to the soft blur of the city beyond. She thought about all the windows she had looked through in her life. Plane windows with clouds outside. Car windows with rain racing across them. Train windows with cities sliding past like scenes in a movie. But this window was different. Because she wasn't moving. And the world outside wasn't rushing either. They were both still. For once. She took a small sip of her drink. It was lukewarm now, but it didn't matter. The warmth was inside her already. Across the room, the waiter turned off the music. A silence followed, deep and full. Not empty, but rich. Like the space between words in a poem. No one spoke. The fog on the window thickened slightly, hiding more of the outside world. Hannah didn't mind. The less she saw, the more she felt. And sometimes, feeling is better than seeing. She imagined the lives behind the windows across the street. A woman watering her plants. A child watching cartoons. A man preparing for work. People waking up, people moving slowly, people living quiet lives. She felt connected to them, even without names, even without words. Because they, too, might be looking out their windows. Maybe even at this cafe. Maybe even at her. She smiled, just a little. And then the waiter brought her a small pastry. She hadn't ordered it. He just placed it gently on the table with a nod and walked away. She didn't speak. She simply looked at the soft golden edges of the pastry, the sugar dust on top catching the light. It looked like a gift from the moment itself. A reminder, you're here. You're alive. You're allowed to enjoy. And so she did. One bite. Then another. Slow. Grateful. The window, the fog, the silence, the city, they were all still there. But something had changed. Not outside. Inside her. She had arrived in Lyon without a map. Without a list. Without a plan. But today, in a small cafe, she found what she hadn't been looking for. Stillness. And sometimes, stillness is the answer to questions we haven't even asked. She finished the pastry and folded the napkin slowly, as if saying goodbye to a dear friend. Then she looked up one more time at the foggy window. The outlines outside were changing now. The light had shifted slightly. A little brighter. A little warmer. She knew it would clear soon. And that was fine. Because even when the fog goes away, the feeling it leaves behind stays. She stood, put on her coat, wrapped her scarf gently, and picked up her bag. She walked toward the door, looked back once at the quiet cafe, then stepped outside. The air was cool. But her heart was warm. She turned the corner and disappeared into the soft rhythm of Lion streets, leaving behind only the memory of a girl who once sat still and looked at a window. And if you listened all the way to here, you just learned English naturally, without effort, without grammar drills, without stress. That's the power of stories. They live in you. Every sentence you heard helps your brain grow more fluent. Bit by bit. Day by day. We upload stories like this every single day, so don't forget to subscribe and like this video if it helped you. Now tell us in the comments, have you ever sat alone and just watched something quietly? What did you feel? Where were you? Let's talk below.